All right, welcome back to some more graphing of quadratics, just like we have done in the last two episodes, 14 and 15, involving X and Y-intercept forms. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and refer to those videos. One of the purposes of this video is to see if you can identify one from the other, and then be able to find and label all these points. But there's another purpose to it, is to see if you can identify the first form of quadratics that we ever worked on and throw it into the mix, all right? So the way we're going to identify there's three forms that we should be thinking about is by asking the question, what is the easiest point to find in this form? Is it the X-intercept? Is it the Y-intercept? Or is it do you remember what it is? It's neither of those. If you don't remember, refer back to episode 7 of this series. And that's right, if you do remember, it is the vertex. This is vertex 1. So let's get started before we waste any more time. I'm going to write it in a different color to highlight. That's what we should be able to identify before we do any more math or any thinking with it. Even if you don't write it down on paper, you should think, oh, I recognize this as vertex form. And what's easier to find in that format? It is the vertex. Therefore, I'm going to start with vertex. All right. So coordinates of vertex is letter D and C. So we know that the line of symmetry happens at x equals 6, and the vertex is 6, negative 64. All right, so there we go. We have two key features of our graph. And then at this point, the order doesn't matter whether you do x and y intercepts. They're kind of at the same level of showing work or difficulty. But what do we know about the x-intercepts? They occur when y equals 0. Some of our favorite type of equations, we've done this before. When y equals 0 here, we're going to add the 64 to both sides and get 64 equal to something squared. So plus or minus 8, I hope you're thinking of plus or minus 8. The something inside is negative 6. So x equals positive 6 plus or minus 8. I'm going to give you some time to catch up, or pause it if you need to figure out how I got from there to there. My point is not to show you all the steps right now, but just to talk about the main idea, right? Revisit previous videos if you forgot how to solve these type of equations. But the points are 14, 0. And the other one is negative 2, 0. Remember that we had from before, the line of symmetry is 6. Therefore, this 6 represents the same as this 6. There it is. That's pretty nice. So negative 2, 0. Maybe not right there. Well, that's fine. And then 14, 0. X equals 6, somewhere in the middle. Notice how we're putting all those pieces of information that we know. And the lowest y value at that point is 64. We know that it curves upwards because it's positive something square. Something like that will work. All right, we already know this point as negative 2, 0. We can label this one 14, 0. We know this guy right here is, maybe I'll write the x equals 6 above, so that I can write the vertex down here. So 6, negative 64. And we're missing 2 more points, so we need to do a little bit more work. What do we know about the y-intercept? That happens when x equals 0. All right, so y equals negative 6 squared minus 64. I'm going to do the work in my head. You check yourself. This is negative 28. So therefore, I'm just going to write the point 0, negative 28. 0, negative 28. One last point to label here is that point of symmetry to the y-intercept. So think of the distance. What's the distance from here to here? It is 6. And then 6 2 times in the positive direction becomes a 12. What's the corresponding y value to the point of symmetry? It's a negative 28. And there are 5 points. Excellent. So again, the main point is, do you recognize this as a vertex form, first of all? And then the next question is, can you figure out all those 5 points after recognizing that as vertex form? Great. There's the first one. Let's keep going. The key is, if you need to pause or rewind, do that at your own convenience. And the other one is, I challenge you to do these ahead of my pace if you can. Excellent. So let's move on. And I'm going to think of the same question. What is the easiest thing to find in this format? Is it the vertex? No. Is it the X-intercepts? Yes. Great. So that lets me know what to start with. And I am going to write that in color. So we know this is X-intercept. What I like to call X-Intercept Form. The textbook calls it something else. If you're curious on that, just wait. Other than that, it's not important for the concept yet, I don't think. As long as you know the X-intercept's the most convenient thing to find here, that's, in my opinion, what's the main idea. So X-intercept when y equals 0. To me, that's showing my work because we can do them in our head. The X-intercept, one of them is -8, 0. And the other one is 4, 0. Again, we spent a lot of time in the previous video showing how to do that. So if you're confused, go back. But it shouldn't be. This is why it's called X-Intercept Form, in my opinion, or what I call it that. Y-Intercept requires a little more work, but not that much. Y-Intercept. When does that happen? When the X value is 0. Therefore, we would get Y equals 8 times -4. Hopefully you can visualize that. Oh, times a -1. That's crucial. 0 plus 8 and 0 minus 4 gives us this. So therefore, the Y value will be a positive 32 when X is 0. And whatever order you simplify, okay? We got 3 points. Let's find the line of symmetry from that. So -8, let's see, 4, 0. Actually, that would be more difficult for me to sketch that way. So let's do it right here. There we go. This will work easier for me. And again, you should notice negative something square, therefore it's concave down or curving downwards. And line of symmetry is somewhere here. See if I'm doing this right. That looks about right. It's curving downwards, goes through that X-intercept. It's got some symmetry on the right side. And this X-intercept is the +4. This one better be the negative. What's right in the middle of -8 and 4? The midpoint is -4 divided by 2 is -2. So we know that the vertex occurs when X equals -2. Let's do some a little bit of algebra here. Y equals negative something times something. That's the format of the factored form given to us. When we plug in a -2 here, -2 plus 8 is 6. And on the second factor, -2 minus 4, -6. So this simplifies all to +36, which makes sense with our picture. So the point should be labeled as -2, 36, which I will do on my picture as well. Nice, it's looking pretty good here. I think I'm ahead of you guys. All right, and last thing is very easy because we already have a Y-intercept, 0, 32. So to find that point of symmetry, we just visualize that distance 2 times. What distance? Is a distance of 2 in the negative direction, which will give us a -4. The corresponding Y value does not change. It's still 32. And there's a pretty complete sketch in X-Intercept Form. Again, the main goal is hopefully you identified X-Intercept Form, number 1, and number 2, were you able to figure out these values from that? Great. So we got Vertex Form, X-Intercept Form. There's one missing. What do you think that one's going to be? And it is right in front of us. Is X-Intercept the most easy thing to find here? It is not. It is right in front of us. What does this represent? The Y-intercept. So therefore, this is Y-Intercept Form. Again, we will give its formal name later in a future video. But if I got ahead of you and didn't give you enough time to pause, here's your chance. All right, let's check then. Because that's Y-Intercept Form, that's the first thing I'm going to find. Y-Intercept. We can do it in our head. What's the Y-Intercept? when x equal to 0. Remember that when we're plugging 0 to both of these terms, that whole thing goes to 0. So 0, negative 60 is the way we're going to represent that point. X-intercept requires a little more work. That is when y equals 0. And that's when our factoring skills have to come into play. So we're going to say that something equals something. 0 equals something times something. What's the factor form of this? We're looking for a product of negative 60 and a sum of negative 4. It looks like some form of 10 and 6 should work, only if we have negative 10, x minus 10, and x plus 6. Check your work. That should definitely be the factor form of this. And therefore, we know the x-intercepts are 10, 0, and negative 6, 0. We can start to draw our picture to find the line of symmetry. We practiced this in the last few videos. Great. That helped us expedite this process. 10, 0, I would say somewhere here. Negative 6, 0, somewhere right there. Therefore, the line of symmetry, about right there. And I also want to ask myself, is this positive something square? We should be thinking positive something square or negative something square. It is positive, therefore it's going to curve upwards. I think I'm going to redo that x-intercept. There we go. I did that one on purpose, actually, because it didn't look too symmetric to me at first. That looks better. There is 10, 0. And let's see how we do with this guy. Oh, that works. That's good enough. I'm going to extend my... There we go. Give me a little more room on the y-axis. So we can see where it crosses, or where the y-intercept would be located, which we already know as 0, negative 60. So the y-intercept, we have an unlabeled x-intercept, and that should be negative 6, 0. And what's right in the middle of 10 and negative 6? 10 minus 6 is 4, divided by 2 is x equals 2. Line of symmetry, x equals 2. So we know the vertex is 2, some y value. And let's figure that out. Vertex when x equals 2. I'm just curious if I did that in the last problem. I did. I thought I skipped the vertex part. Okay, great. So therefore, I'm going to remember that we can plug it into the multiply form. I like to plug it into the factor forms a little quicker. Y equals 2 minus 10 is negative 8. And 2 plus 6 is 8. So the point should be 2, negative 64. And we are done with that one. Oh, and that's not 100% true because we haven't labeled the point of symmetry to the y-intercept, which is right there. And it should be 4, 60. All right, there we go. 5 points labeled very quickly. And hopefully we recognize Y-intercept form. All right, so what do you recognize this one as? And again, see if you can go faster than my pace. This definitely should be, what's easier to find in this format is the X-intercepts, X-intercept form. And let's go and solve for those X-intercepts right away, because that's the easy thing to find in that form. That's where I would like to start. I always like to start on what's the easiest thing to do. So because that's the case, X-intercept, the only work that I require people or students to show is y equals 0. That's it. If you can be solving your head, there's no need to do that. So 7, 0 is enough. And negative 5, 0. Great. I think that I normally use my green pencil for this, or green pen for this one. There we go. Okay, so what do we know about the y-intercept? is when x equals 0. So therefore we get y equals -7 times 5. Hopefully you can see that from plugging in 0 in here and here. So y-intercept is 0, -35. Okay, so once we have these 3 points, we can easily make our sketch, and it is positive something times something, so we think curving upwards. This is a parabola that opens upwards. So if we start at 7 and let me redo that. 7, 0 and 5, 0. Then the line of symmetry is somewhere right there. All right. That doesn't look too bad. And we can start labeling. Which one is this one? Better be 7, 0. And which one is this one? It has to be the negative x-intercept, -5, 0. We know that the y-intercept is 0, -35. All of that's starting to make sense and fits our picture very nicely. Now we want to know the midpoint of 7 and -5. 7 minus 5 is 2. Therefore, this is x equals 1, right? X equals 1. So we know that the vertex happens when x equals 1 for this quadratic. So I like to plug it into the factored form, which is given to us. So 1 minus 7 is -6, and 1 plus 5 is 6, plugging it into the other factor. So therefore, the point is 1, -36, and it also fits our picture very nicely. Last thing is point of symmetry. It is 2, -35. We have a distance of 1 2 times. This distance is 1, and this distance is 1. The y value does not change. And done. So that was another example of X-Intercept Form. I think we've seen two at this point. Yep, there they are. Hopefully you're gaining some speed and comfortability with all the 3 forms. Take another second to think, what is the easiest thing to find in this form? It's not the y-intercept. It's not the x-intercept. It is the, hopefully you recognize that as a vertex form. Oh man, I'm having trouble. Every time I rush, this happens to me. It's all right. Let's move on. So what's the vertex? That's where I'm going to start. So vertex, in this case, the line of symmetry is when x equals -5. And that point is -5, 81. And we're done with vertex. Now, whichever order you want to do the next few doesn't matter. I like to start with x-intercepts because that's just the order that I start when there's no convenience. And that happens when y equals 0. It doesn't matter if you did the y-intercept first, it's okay. We will get same points. So that means that we will have, and again, if this is 0, I want you to think we're going to add the something squared to both sides. Something squared to both sides will give us the same equation of something squared equals 81. If you're confused about this, we practice this a lot in many videos in the past. But I think that it's still very easy to see how we went from here to here once we substitute this y with a 0. And again, I'm not going to show all the steps, but we should get -5 plus or minus 9. Line of symmetry we said was when x equals -5. That's the same as this -5. And then we go 9 units to the right of that. So that will give us the point -5 minus 9 will be a -14, I believe. And the other intercept is -5 plus 9, which is 4. All right. Last thing is Y-intercept. This may be actually the last thing. Maybe I can do it here. Y-intercept occurs when y equals to, when something at x equals 0. And we will say now that y equals negative, remember it's negative something squared plus 81. And it will be a 5. All right, try and simplify that. We should get a y value of negative 6, not negative, positive 64. Check that. I'm checking in my head one more time just to make sure that I don't mess this up. I don't know if that's right. Negative 25 plus 81. $56. All right, good. Good thing I double checked. I hope you did as well. I think that's positive 56. Yeah. If you have a calculator, double check that, but I think it's 56. So we'll write that as 0.56. Otherwise, the concept's correct. I know that. All right. But let's see if it fits my picture. Otherwise, I have to do some rethinking here. So positive 4, somewhere right there. Negative 14, somewhere here. Right in the middle of that should be a negative 5. That makes sense. And is this positive something square or negative something square? It is positive something square. So therefore it curves downwards. And then we'll do something like this. It seems like every point is fitting my picture, even that 56. Again, if it's not 56, my mistake, but the concept's correct. What was the line of symmetry? It was 5. Negative 5. So negative 5 2 times in the, or 5 2 times in the negative direction is negative 10. The corresponding y value is 56, or whatever the y value for the vertex should be. And we know the vertex is negative 581. Oh man, that took me a little bit longer than I wanted to because of, I still don't know if that's correct. I think it is. Either way, let's move on. Okay, last one. Again, the main thing, if you just want to identify what form it is and then leave this video, that's fine. But did you identify? What is it? What's the most easy thing to find in this format? It is the Y-intercept. That's right. So this is Y-Intercept Form. And the next question is, do you know how to find all those 5 points? If not, stick around. Let's do it. Y-intercept is when x equals 0. When x equals 0, this whole thing goes to 0. Therefore, we get a 45, 0, 45. Now, X-intercept requires a little more work, especially because of that negative symbol. Let's factor it out. This is for X-intercept y equals 0. Let's correct that. Y equals 0. And then we're going to say that 0 equals negative something. If we take the opposite of each symbol, we get x squared plus 4x. Not 9, plus 4x, and then minus 45. That way we can factor what's inside. Okay? So we have 0 equals negative something times something. What was the two numbers that multiplied to negative 45 and combined to positive 4? Looks like some form of 9 and 5. Only if we have positive 9 and negative 5. That works. Therefore, the intercepts are negative 9, comma 0, and 5, comma 0. All right, 3 points that allow us to find everything else pretty nicely. 5, 0, some are right there. Negative 9, 0, some right there. Line of symmetry should be right in the middle of those two. Excuse my line of symmetry. You get the idea. And it's negative something squared. Negative something squared tells us that this is going to curve down. Something like this. That's not great, but not too bad actually. And we know this point, 0, 45. We're going to use that to find the point of symmetry. But we should start labeling the x-intercepts. This is the 5, 0. This one better be the negative 9, 0. And all of those are starting to fit nicely together. What's right in the middle of negative 9 and 5? Negative 9 plus 5 is negative 4. Divided by 2 is negative 2. So we also know that point is going to be negative 2, comma something. And from here, we can find that distance. 2 times in the negative direction is going to give us a x value of negative 4. And a y value that doesn't change. It matches the point of symmetry. All right, so we know that the vertex is located at x equals negative 2. And we're almost done. I think if you stuck around these past 3 videos for the whole thing, because they've been pretty long, I guess, because we had a lot to do. So y equals, I like the factor form better. Wherever you prefer, you can plug it into this if you prefer, all right? But I like to go with negative something times something. Negative 2 plus 9 is 7. And negative 2 minus 5, negative 7. When we simplify this, that becomes positive 49. But I wanted to write the point as negative 2, positive 49. Does it fit our picture? Does it make sense? It fits? Absolutely right. So there it is. We are done with these very basic forms of X and Y intercept and very basic form of vertex. Very soon we're going to formalize all 3, but that's not the point of this video. It's just to get you comfortable recognizing them and still testing your skills whether you're able to get these points or not in all 3 different forms. All right, so I look forward to showing you some more, and stay tuned for the next ones. See you later, guys.